Rest in pieces, Fox.
Hello, everybody. Smaug the DM here, and, well, let's just cut straight to it. This has been probably one of, if not, either the saddest years on this channel, or the absolute fucking worst. And it really boiled down to, I think, what it came down to was there was a lot of high expectations on my part, which never really got fully done because of, well, I just thought I could overachieve something I could overachieve, but that never really was, like, possible. And so we're gathered here to probably explain what actually went wrong this year. This is more like an everything wrong with this year. That's how I'm structuring it, for real. I mean, I guess the best way I could really sum this up is, like, when you have no content in October, which my channel has been infamous for having content in October, and there was nothing, that's a problem. That was a huge problem. And I apologize to all those folks who expect me or expected something out of that month and never received anything. I do want to apologize for that. But I guess I could just start talking about the positives of last year, right? Like, first of all, the charity stream for Leaf Green was probably the big highlight of this year. Because we raised $90 in total for the American Cancer Society, which was absolutely fucking amazing to see that. I'm still shocked that we made so much for an incredibly good charity as a whole. And keep in mind, I'm still working on getting everybody leveled and everything, and that's probably what I'm going to be doing, like, in January of this next year. But overall, Leaf Green turned out very, very, very well. And I'm actually looking forward to what happens next to the charity streams, which I'll talk about in a little bit here. But then, of course, we got through a couple more of the D&D Earth episodes. Well, one more. I was supposed to do another one, like the episode prior to the Age of Ultron arc, but I unfortunately didn't. I just ran out of time. I thought I would be able to get that episode done before that happened, before, anything else got done, but unfortunately, it just got shafted for the everything wrong with that I was working on, which, I'm happy that people wanted to see that, and I'm glad that people liked it, but it's like, I don't know what's really going on with my channel, in all honesty. It's like, people want to see the everything wrong with videos, but they also want to see the D&D Earth videos, and I think that this was like the main issue going on with this year, was trying to balance both of them out, but I just could not, for the life of me, do that in any sort of way, which, I think that's going to be one of the key things that I'm going to be working on. Which brings me to the everything wrong withs. So, of course, I wanted to do all 6 Jurassic Park movies before Rebirth, and, well, 2 of them only got done. Yeah, my bad. Hell, I'll even admit, like, even before I started recording this for the end of the year here, I was still working on editing through the Everything Wrong with JP3 video, which I was hoping I would have gotten done before Thanksgiving, but, shit happens. And it's like, well, fuck. And I'm just like, God damn it. So, I think what's really going to happen when we get into January of next year is I think pretty much just expect JP3 to come out, as well as the other D&D Earth episode that I could not get done. I think that's what I really want to do. So we got through those in, June and July, and however much that I could get done. And then it was not until about September when I got to the iceberg video, which, granted, that was pretty fun. I did like doing it. It's just, it took way too long to make that episode. To a point where I had to make basically 2 update videos at the same time I was working on the iceberg. It's like, oh man, it's like, that's how I fucked up this year. That is how badly I have screwed this whole thing up, is when I'm doing an entire, giant video that I'm just doing for fun, and it's, first of all, it was supposed to be just one update, but then you have to add another update on top of that because it took you so long to do it. It's like, I'm besides myself. I'm more or less just mad at myself. But that's not really all of what's been happening this year as well. Then there's the Jurassic Park Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I wanted to do. And I still have yet to work on backgrounds. And it's like, my brother in Christ, I have the entirety of the story already written down before I can even get what the players have access to. It's like, bruh. And again, the story is pretty much going to be very similar to how the movies play out, just a little bit differently because it's D&D. I'm trying to set this more in the Dungeons & Dragons setting rather than, something like I'm doing with D&D Earth, which is just sticking the characters in our Earth and doing the things that they're doing here. You know what I mean? I wanted to make the Jurassic Park game a little different, but that has also just been another background thing that I've been like, yeah, I'm pressing up against that a lot. Oh my God. And then Jurassic World Evolution 3, let's not even bother talking about that shit. Oh, man. I'll grant you, this has been a way, way, way better campaign than Jurassic World Evolution 2's campaign was. I'll admit it. I'm having so much fun playing the third game. I really am. But unfortunately, Jurassic World Evolution 3 came out at a really, really bad time for me, because I got sick when it first released, and I was also working at the time, so I was like, fuck. It was like, I tried my best to get through as much of the campaign as I could, but, even then, I still am, so far behind, it's not funny. It's like, man, it's just, it's bad news bears all around, which I could say the exact same thing for FNAF 2. I have yet to beat the 6th night because I'm realizing now that Night 6 is an absolute bitch to play, because it not only is you have to get, the skill set down, but it's also random luck. And the problem with this is that, and the problem with Night 6 is the fact that you can have the skill, but if they just keep coming at you, it's like you can't do shit. And what's worse about it is that it's all timed based. So it's like, I literally watched the videos, and I'm thankful for everybody who sent me those videos to help me out. But I've watched those videos of how they beat Night 6, and it's literally time based. And it's like, okay, so you have to wind the box 4 times at most, and then you have to put down the mask as soon as you drop down the monitor, and then start flashing the hallway for Foxy, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. It's like, I should have that skill set down, but I don't. I don't, because RNG fucking sucks. Oh, man. It's... And then the fact that I wanted to cover the FNAF 2 movie, which I'll be honest, guys, I still don't have a single idea as to how I want to do that review, because I'll give you the short and sweet of it. It pretty much, I have no real words as to how I want to describe this movie. And that's the best way I could describe it, is like there's no words. I don't know how to communicate my feelings towards that movie to you guys, and especially for a review as well. But we're not going to discuss that now. We're not going to deal with that now, or any of that sort of thing. But then there is one more video, or 3-parter, if you will, that I did this year, which was the Disney trip with swords. And I'll be honest, I had a whole lot of fun doing that whole entire video and doing the trip itself. I thought that was really neat. And a lot of y'all really liked that video too, and I'm very happy that you guys liked it as much as Swords and I liked the trip. What I'm probably thinking is maybe next year we could do something like that, but I won't be holding my breath, I don't think, for it. But if you guys really want me and Swords to do another trip like that again, like, I'll totally be down for it. You just gotta let me know, y'all. That's really about it for what's gone down this year. Let's talk about what's going down next year. So, obviously, the stuff that got pushed back all the way to here that I was supposed to get done, I think that's the first thing that's going to get done when we hit January. And I might be changing something up for a little bit for it, but January, I think, for the most part, is just all the old content that was supposed to be this year is going to be going into next year. So, just keep an eye on those things. But another thing to keep an eye out on is my channel turning 10 this coming year. 10 years. My channel will be 10 years old. And first of all, that's amazing that I'm still working on this channel for 10 years. And I know this is the point in every YouTuber's career where they're like, you know, hey, this might be the time that I start retiring. I might be retiring because I haven't spent time with family and stuff because it's been busy. And it's like, for me, no. No way I ain't gonna retire. I might someday, but I'm like, not now, because I don't make a lick of anything for doing what I do. It's literally, I've said this for many, many years, it's literally just a passion project for what I do here on YouTube. It's just, I like doing this. Like, that's the end all be all of it. You know what I mean? I like doing what I do, okay? I don't think that's such a hard concept to get through. But for the 10-year anniversary, besides doing the anniversary video like I did 5 years ago, which, oh my gosh, I just can't believe how fucking old this channel is. Holy shit. But for this 10-year, anniversary, I wanted to do something, a little different. And so, you guys may have noticed that I posted right around Christmas that I wanted y'all to comment down below that post. And that's because the thing that I'm going to do for next year is this. So outside of doing the anniversary video, I will be picking out 10 different people for 10 different video ideas that I want to do, or that they want to do. So I will randomly select from anywhere, from YouTube to Discord to Twitter, like anywhere. I will randomly pick somebody to make a video idea for my channel. And the whole goal of it is to actually do the idea if you get picked. Now, I might be doing a whole video where I'm going to actually show the results of who did that, who got selected for the 10 people that voted, or for the 10 people that got it. But, there's probably going to be like 1 or 2 people that I might push to get a video idea out for, but we'll see. It depends on how the dice rolls, because I'm literally going to be using a spinner to like figure this whole thing out. Um, figure this whole thing out. like 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 like figure this whole thing out. Like figure this whole thing out. And again, it's literally anybody. Like anybody from YouTube, anybody from Discord and Twitter. So it's literally every single one of y'all can post a video idea, which is insane. I'm going to realize that's actually pretty insane. And so what's going to happen is once I get who got voted in, I'll reach out to you. I'll let you know. I'll be like, hey, like what video idea do you want to do? And then I will create a poll on, not on YouTube, but I'll do like a Google Drive like poll, where you guys are going to vote as to which video idea should go out first. And the way that I'm going to structure this is similar to how, like, if any of y'all have played Ark, right, and they do the creature voting contest, it's going to be something similar to that, where it's like, again, the one that has the most amount of votes every week is going to be the one that ultimately gets selected out. And the one that gets least selected gets, dropped out in the races until, whenever I get back to that person. And so once everything's done, and it could be literally anything that these people vote for, so long as the idea is like nothing inappropriate, because I think we're all adults here. I think we can do something that's not inappropriate for the channel. Please not do that type of shit. But I think we're all pretty much adults here. I think we can have a good idea as to what you guys want to see off my channel there, and we'll go from there. And so when these videos do get voted outright, the first video, or the videos that I'm going to be doing, are going to be posted like on the 13th of pretty much every single month, for the most part. I think the only 2 months that I will say we're not going to do that for are going to be April and October. Just so that October we have something to do, and, well, I'll discuss April in a little bit. I may also include January and then just switch it up into April, but we'll see how this all goes. Depends on like who wins the voting overall to see who gets what first. Hell, I might even switch it up just for the fact that it might be a shorter video idea. Who knows? But that's something that I definitely want to do for the 10-year anniversary, at least content-wise. Now it's time for everything else. So, obviously, like I did 5 years ago, I will be now changing the banner for my YouTube. And I don't know if this will be done in time or not, but the banner was actually made by Swords himself. I actually commissioned Swords to make this banner, and I think it's going to look really, really neat. I think y'all are going to really like this banner. But we shall see. Who knows? I think y'all are really going to like the banner when it does get posted up, if it's not already posted up by now. I will be creating a whole new bio as well, just to reflect what the channel has become now, because I haven't changed that fucking bio ever since I don't think I've started, I think ever since I started the channel, I've never changed that bio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change the bio to make it, appropriate as to what I'm doing right now, which I think that's fair, to say the least. And the exact same thing is going to be happening to Twitter. I'm going to change the banner on it, so the old banner is going to be officially gone. And I'm going to change the bio on Twitter as well. And the same thing's going to happen in Discord. The old banner is going to be replacing. So the icon for the old banner is now going to be the newer banner for there. And speaking of Discord, you may have noticed that I have posted up several different messages telling everybody, hey, you need to pick a role on this server. And that I was going to explain it. Now, here's the explanation. So, I made some changes to the Discord, earlier, this year, not last year, but, or this, you get what I mean. You get what I mean. I started making changes to Discord this year, and to include roles, and those roles were meant to be private chats for the people that specifically wanted certain content from my channel. And, well, needless to say, not too many people added roles. And so what I'm going to ask all of you, if you are a part of the Discord, right, please go to Discord, go under the YouTube server that I have, right? There will be a tab that says roles. If you go to the pinned message or scroll all the way to the top, you'll see that like there's different like emojis that you can put down for which roles you want. Please, 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 I highly advise you to pick a role. It doesn't even matter. Hell, you could pick multiple roles. I didn't know you could do that, but you can. You can pick multiple roles if you really want. Depending on what type of content you really like out of me. But if you do not pick a role by the time this video basically ends, so basically when the whole live stream ends for the end of the year video, I will start kicking people out who have not picked a role. And I don't mean to be, intentionally doing that, but it is a way to like clean out the people who are who are really not active on the server, if you will. This is more or less to keep people who I know who are constantly active on that server and making sure that they're, staying on there and, just so that everybody who wants to be on Discord can stay on that Discord page. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. But for literally anybody else, you are unfortunately going to get kicked, sadly. The way that I see that Discord is that if you do get kicked, it's like a 48-hour, kick out of the server, and then you could immediately jump back in. At least that's how I've interpreted it. If that's not how it's interpreted, then please let me know. But yeah, I will start to be kicking out more inactive users, if you will. Just so that way, for the people that actually are there and they're communicating, you're communicating. It doesn't mean that you have to comment every day. It's just for people that I know want to be on that server as a whole. That's the whole meaning that I'm trying to get behind, right? That's what I'm trying to say, basically. And so with all that in mind, with all those changes done, what is the actual game plan for next year? So, like I said before, content in January, the stuff for January, is going to be the old content that I was supposed to release this year, if that makes sense. And now the next thing, the next big new thing that's going to happen is in February, we're going to play Heart Gold. And if you know through watching the after party videos, you will understand that the way that I want to do this is I'm going to be adding new rules, and I'm going to be reposting or redoing the voting for some of the added rules that we're going to do, or the place that we're going to donate to. Just so that, because it's been over a year. Just so that way, if we've changed something, if we don't want, certain things to happen, then I'll take that consideration into mind. Because, again, we've already done all the voting, and I already know what a lot of y'all's answers are, but just to clarify, just to double check, I'm going to be redoing the voting again just to be sure. But we'll play through Heart Gold through February, and I'm hoping to finish Heart Gold by then. If not, then we'll do exactly what I did for Leaf Green, which was maybe at a later date in the year. I'll just finish up the game, and we'll go from there. And that's, I think, going to be the start of the charity live streams there, so there's that. And so what we're going to do again, and I'm going to try to do this again, because I said I was going to do this last year, so we're going to try to do it this year. Well, you get what I mean. We tried doing this in 2025, now we're going to try to do this in 2026, right? Is we're going to try to get through the Age of Ultron arc and the Thai trilogy, I think is what it's called. It's the other 4 Jurassic World Everything Wrong Withs. Just to get them out of the way, because especially like while I was still working on the Jurassic Park 3 video, of course, CinemaSins did their Rebirth video, and I'm like, oh no. And keep in mind, by the way, I have not touched that video ever since it got released. I have not seen this video yet. So I don't even want to know how bad this is going to be, because I've seen a little bit of the Dominion one, and I know how bad that one is. But the Rebirth video, not so much. I haven't seen a lick of the Rebirth video. And I'm kind of scared as to what they're going to say about that one. Oh, boy. So the Age of Ultron arc I'm going to do in April, which is why I wanted April as one of the blackout dates for the random videos for the anniversary. And June and July are going to be when I do the Everything Wrong with Jurassic World stuff. And that's basically going to be the game plan for all of that. And I do believe that, yep, we're pretty much just going to be celebrating the 10th year anniversary in October, which is why, again, October has that blackout date for the random video. And pretty much Jurassic World Evolution 3 is just going to be all year long. So there's like no specific dates. It's like whenever I feel like playing Jurassic World Evolution 3, I'll just play it. I'll play it. Like, I still haven't finished the campaign or anything, but if I got the time, I'll play it. Same thing with FNAF 2. If we get to October and I've got the time, then I'll try to beat Night 6. I will try to beat Night 6. Oh my god. But yeah, just expect a lot of stuff to be up front and forward in January. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I do have 2 more things that I want to say. Number 1, I'm going to be announcing another little thingy that I've always wanted to do. And, unfortunately, that stuff is not quite finished yet either. So I'll say that, I'll just say this. I'll just say this to, like, maybe hype up something. But, let's just say there might be some extra stuff for Leaf Green for fans of those charity streams. I'll just leave it at that. I think I'll leave it at that. That might be I think I might have revealed too much, but I think that's the best way to put it. And then there's just one more other little thing, and if it doesn't happen, then we could basically ignore it. If it does happen, well, needless to say, let's put it at this. If it doesn't happen, completely ignore this. Just flat out ignore it. But if this thing does happen, then be prepared for a live stream that's going to happen in January. If it's February and it's a live stream, then don't worry about it. If there's a live stream that happens in January, on the other hand, just be prepared for something that's a little more serious. But again, who the fuck knows, right? Basically, I'm trying not to worry you guys, but if it does happen, it'll happen. But if it doesn't happen, just ignore what I'm saying right now. But yeah, needless to say, this year was kind of fucked. And there's no excuses for it. It's mostly because I've been working a lot. But keep in mind this as well, guys. For those of you who are like really itching for content, just know that I am a one-man army. Everything I fucking do here on this channel is all done by myself. I've barely had any help from other people outside of, collaborations with folk where they're just lending in their talking voices, or I'm getting my buddies to voice act in videos, or like I did with the new banner, I'm getting my buddies to basically do commissions for me to make that sort of stuff. Like, I'm just a one-man army. And a lot of y'all can tell me, like, well, maybe, hey, like, try to get an editor. Maybe that'll help you. But at the same time, you guys have seen that, and you could still continue to see, that I make no money doing this. It's literally a passion project, what I do here on YouTube. And not to throw smoke at some of the VTubing crowd, because I know I don't want them on my ass, because a lot of them follow me on Twitter for some reason. But here's the thing. I would like to pay my editor to do stuff. And even then, I don't feel comfortable with somebody else editing all my shit, right? I like the entire process. So, and needless to say, I don't want to hire somebody for free to do this type of shit. I don't feel comfortable asking somebody to basically edit all my work for free, and them to just say, nah, it's all cool, dude. Like, I'll just edit your stuff for free. And I'm like, no, man. I would like to do all this sort of shit, like, on my own, if I can help it. If I ever did get an editor, I would like to pay them. And that's basically what it all boils down to. But needless to say, again, like I said, this year has just been absolute shit. And I deeply want to apologize to everybody that it's just been getting worse. But I'm hoping for the 10th year anniversary of this channel, I am very much looking forward to what the hell is going to go on. And I'm hoping that content slowly starts to come back to the channel. And, you guys get to see a lot more stuff from me. But anyways, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much everything. So I'm hoping to see y'all in the next year. And one more time before I cut this video out, if you have not picked a role up by now, just so you're aware, as soon as this is done, I'm getting straight to Discord and I'm starting to remove people. It is what it is. So if you have not picked a role up yet, please do so now. Just one role. It doesn't have to be multiple roles. Just pick one role. All right? But anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed 2025. I mean, I tried my best to do as much content as I did, but I've also been seeing that a lot of y'all have not caught up to that content quite yet. So maybe I should try slowing down a little, just so, you guys can digest all this stuff up, because it is still a lot that I do. But yeah, needless to say, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys thought about this year. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel to keep up with, what's going to be coming up very, very soon. And until next time, guys, I am the DM, and have a happy new year, everybody.